Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and I want to say Shalom to Yakman Akwath out there pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson and with another edition of Legends, Lies, and the Cherished Myths of Babylon. Okay, this is part 2, and if you haven't watched the first part, I highly recommend doing so, as it's going to be basically picking up from where we left off. And basically I found this book called Legends, Lies, and Cherished Myths of American History, written by this guy Richard Schenkman. It's from 1986 or 1987, I think it was, but published this version in 1988. And it deals with a lot of the fabrications of American history, okay, and which there's a whole lot of them. So at the start of the book, we're getting back into it. It's basically dealing with Christopher Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci, Leif Erikson. Okay, basically the founding of America. Basically, the Legends, Lies, and Cherished Myths of American history. It starts up with American history. Okay, it starts up with the whole history of America coming into fruition is bullshit, right? So if you haven't watched the first one, I recommend going and watching that one, because of course, being that it's a book, it's picking up from where we left off. But I mean, at the end of the day, you can really watch them in any order, because it's just going to be dealing with Esau's bullshit, right? And then I use this Webster's Compact Dictionary that I believe this is from 1986 as well. Let me see. 1987. Okay, you can see that right there. Boom, copyright 1987. And again, I want to get a bigger one, but I just got this tiny one. It's good for doing lessons and stuff like this. And I picked these up at the same time. All right, I found this and I found this. I said, all right, let's go into this. So anyway, let me move this out of the way and let's get started up. Grab a sip of water here. And let's rock with it. Okay, move that in the center. And I got got some notes and stuff for the last scriptures that I've already got. Right, already got all these. I try to keep track of them because I don't want to get the same ones each time. And I'm super forgetful with that type of stuff. So I was like, let me go and see. Let me just write which ones I've already got done, because I was basically just free flowing this and grabbing it as I go. Where were we? Here we are. Move that out the way. So this is the page we were on, right? I mean, of course, we're picking back up from what Columbus did, all right, when he actually did show up. And first of all, that he wasn't the first person to show up, but the type of things that he did when he did show up, because it was talking about how they basically made this guy into a legend. Where is it? Right here. I'll read this little excerpt again at the bottom. Let me move my keyboard out the way. Can I show the bottom that way? Absolutely, I can. So let me just see what I can do here. All right. So at the bottom, this guy Howard Zinn, you could see that. Move it there. It says Howard Zinn. Let me use my pen. I got the white pen today instead of the black one. I got that one over here, but this one writes a little bit better. Howard Zinn chides Morrison. Now, who is this individual? Because there was an individual, something Morrison, that was basically this guy Howard Zinn. I believe he was one of the ones that was like, revering this guy, turning him into like a myth. Trying to find exactly where it said it. I can't necessarily find it, but anyway, this guy Howard Zinn says chides Morrison. I guess Morrison was one of the guys. I couldn't find it in here. It's somewhere in here. That was blowing the whistles, essentially. All right, and Howard Zinn is one of these guys that was idolizing him, like basically like the standard American, right? Idolizing. Oh, if it wasn't for Christopher Columbus, bullshit, right? And basically what was said, I wanted to read this little part. It said again, we read it last time, but again. Started up, says Howard Zinn chides Morrison for acknowledging mass murder on one page and then ignoring it later on to bury the facts. He says in a massive information is to say the reader with certain infectious with it. Let me move this keyboard again. There we go. To say the reader with a certain infectious calm, yes, mass murder took place, but it's not that important. It should weigh very little on our final judgments. No. And like I said last lesson, I know that should weigh pretty heavily on your judgments. For example, that's anything. All right, if someone's a mass murderer, no, I don't care what you did. I'm not gonna think that you're a good person, you know. So, second page here, starting from the top, it says the distortions of Columbus's record are matched by Amerigo Vespucci's. There we go. We hear that name mentioned a lot, right, by the apostles. Well, that's in this book, all right? It says are matched by Amerigo Vespucci's. In the day, he was frequently regarded as the first European to touch the American mainland. Later, he was recognized as the first person to realize America was not part of Asia, but a new continent. In our day, he has been credited for inventing a new lunar astronomy. None of these claims are accurate. Vespucci lied about beating Columbus to the mainland in an account of a 1497 voyage that was completely fabricated. Again, another bullshitter. And does this guy mention America was indeed named after Vespucci, though claims have been made for others? No, it was what was his name? Does it mention him in here? 1 minute. I want to see if it actually mentions that guy. What was his name, man? Vespucci, Amerigo Vespucci. No. So 1 minute. 1 minute. Let's go and look it up. All right. So, Amerigo Vespucci. Okay. And it was named after Vespucci, but he wasn't the one who named it. It was who actually named it was right here it is. It says Vespucci claimed to have understood in 1501 that Brazil was part of a fourth continent unknown to Europeans, which he called the New World, Mundus Novus. The claim inspired cartographer Martin Waldesmuller to recognize Vespucci's accomplishments in 1507 by applying the Latinized form America to a map showing the New World. Of course, that's South America, right? Other cartographers followed suit, securing the tradition of marking the name America on the maps of the newly discovered continents. It is unknown whether Vespucci was ever aware of these honors. But yeah, that's how America was named, all right? It was after Amerigo Vespucci, okay? So, I don't know if it necessarily mentioned that in here. I didn't see Waldesmuller's name come up on here. So, I wanted to put that out there. That's where the name Amerigo Vespucci, it's like America comes from, all right, is Amerigo Vespucci, okay, which was a like an explorer, and then Waldesmuller was a cartographer, all right. So a cartographer is someone who makes maps, okay, for those that don't know. So it says, starting back up, it says the distortions of Columbus's record are matched by Amerigo Vespucci's. In the day, he was frequently regarded as the first European to touch the American mainland. Later, he was recognized as the first person to realize America was not part of Asia, but a new continent. In our day, he has been credited with inventing a new lunar astronomy. As a matter of fact, 1 minute, I want to try something out with the, let me see something real quick. Bear with me. Gonna make everything look weird real quick. But last time I did this, the it's not gonna degrade the quality that much, no. Last time I did this, the file was like 8 gigabytes because of the webcam. So I wanted to, I cut it down from 1080p to 720. It's fine enough for a book. It doesn't need to look that great, and it's gonna cut down and save space. And after that, I have to compress it anyway. All right, so hopefully it'll save time with compressing, because last time it didn't take too long. It took like 20-something minutes. But again, I like to upload as soon as I'm done. I don't like to edit and do all that extra, BS. But anyway, hopefully it doesn't look like it cut down the quality too much. And let me fiddle with something again. So where are we at? We're at focus level 10. Let me see something. That looks a little bit better to me. So, and again, with lighting changes, sometimes I gotta go and mess with it a little bit, but this looks better to me. There was some blurring around the outer edges, so it looks like everything's mostly in focus now. So, anyway, continuing on, wanted to make those quick changes. Hopefully that, makes things better. It says, not one of these claims is accurate. Again, I love this book already because it just lists shit and it says, oh, that was fake. And then it lists more shit. It says, that was fake too. This is fake. And then one of the ones we got yesterday was like a lie about a lie. It's like, and it reminds me what the elder Menatazatva always says. He says, you lied about the lies that you lied about, right? And that's Esau's claim to grace, or is lying about lies that they lied about lying about. And it says, not one of these claims is accurate. Vespucci lied about beating Columbus to the mainland in an account of a 1497 voyage that was completely fabricated. Vespucci did not realize he was exploring a new world any more than Columbus did, and he did not invent a new astronomy based on the location of the moon or anything else. Morrison himself, an accomplished mariner and a former admiral, says Vespucci's claim to have used lunar distances to find longitude is fantastic. The technique had been known in Vespucci's time, writes Morrison, and Vespucci is to be praised for having heard about it, but he is merely pulling his reader's leg and implying that he was able to use it. His method, he says, was to turn a primitive plumb line quadrant or a mariner's astrolabe on its side to measure the angular distance between the moon and a planet, which is impossible, especially at moonrise, with the instruments at his disposal. America was indeed named after Vespucci, though claims have been made for others. Leif Erikson has been put forward on the ground that America could be constructed to mean land of Eric in Scandinavian language. Amp means land of, and so, as one writer puts it, Amterik, land of Eric, became America. No, that's not what it was. Nope. It says, others have suggested the New World was named after one of John Cabot's friends, Richard Emerich, the sheriff of Bristol. It is not exactly clear why this should have occurred, but it is supposed to have something to do with the fact that Cabot had to collect his pension for Emmerich. Let's see if I can try to hold it like that so it's better. All right. It says, actually, America was named after Vespucci by a map maker. There it is. It should, is it going to mention his name? Not going to mention his name. That's Waldesmuller. That's the map maker he's talking about. Actually, America was named after Vespucci by a map maker who had been misled by the explorer's apocryphal 1497 adventure. It should not have happened, but it did. So the fact, even the situation that happened to cause America to be named the way it is a lie. Okay, it was named after a false excursion, all right, by Amerigo Vespucci. Okay, it was a false excursion because he was an explorer, and then Waldesmuller, he was a map maker, entranced by Vespucci's fake adventure in 1497, and he named America, and it couldn't be better. It couldn't be a better naming scheme. You named America after some fake shit that never happened. That's hilarious. It's really hilarious. It says should not have happened, but it did. And so America, as Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, must wear the name of the thief, Amerigo Vespucci, the pickle dealer at Silverville, who managed in his lying world to suppress Columbus and baptize half the world in his own dishonest name. It says Vasco Nunez de Balboa did not lie about his accomplishments, but his reputation as the discoverer of the Pacific Ocean is only partially deserved. The truth is, he was not the first European to see the Pacific. He was not even the second or the third to sight it. It is likely he was the 1000th. Balboa was the first to discover the Pacific from the American side. Of course, there's an Asian side to the ocean, and the Asian side had been explored by Europeans 2 centuries before Balboa. Marco Polo is said to have sailed the Pacific on his way to Java in the 13th century. In 1375, a European mapmaker featured the western side of the Pacific and a crude drawing of China. Regular European travel on the Asian side of the Pacific began in 1511, 2 years before Balboa, with the voyages of Antonio de Abreu, Scholars consider Abreu the real discoverer of the Pacific because his voyages to the Spice Islands led to Ferdinand Magellan's exploration of the Pacific. And there we go. We're out of focus again. 1 minute. See what I can do here. I hate to be tinkering with it, but about as good as I can get it. So it's when this, I don't have a good proper mount for this camera. There's not a good way to mount it because the mount's on the bottom. It's just it's like one of the first, I won't say it's one of the first, but it's a very early version of when the 1080p cameras first came out. I've had this webcam since I was 15, 16 when I wanted to be a video game YouTuber. I've had it since then. My mom came back 8 years ago when I got back in contact with her after moving out of state, and she brought it in a box of my stuff that I had stored, and I said, well, this is fine enough. So I've had it since then. So I've even had it. Hell, I've had it for back in my possession for 6 years now. I said, this is fine. It's fine enough. You can see, can't you? It's good enough. But it's not 1080p like you'd get a 1080p camera now to be, right? Ink all up in my nail. Block it. But anyway, hopefully it's not too bothering that I gotta change the settings every once in a while. It doesn't have the best autofocus on it. It'll keep on zooming in and out, so I don't leave that on. I just go and just manually set it when I'm doing this. So it says Admiral Morrison was more indulgent. This is from this little pin up here. It says Admiral Morrison was more indulgent. So here's to you, Amerigo. Liar, though you were, you made 3 long transatlantic voyages, wrote entertainingly about them, and played your cards so clever as to be elected to the exclusive club of the immortals. Without you, the history of American discovery would be infinitely poorer. See Samuel Eliot Morrison, the European Discovery of America, the Northern Voyages, 1971, Chapter 3. Anything else? No, that's it. So, where are we at? I think we already read that part. So yeah, now we're back over here. Okay. So it says Balboa's explorations, in contrast, led nowhere. His chief legacy, there we go, fading out again. We're just going to leave it because you can still read it. His chief legacy consists almost entirely in the sordid and vicious record he left while blazing his way across Central America to the Pacific. Among other things, he virtually wiped out a village of Native Americans, Gadites, Gadites or Issacharites, depending, because the chief liked to dress up in women's clothes. Huh. Look at that. That's interesting. See, Jake doing some weird shit even back then. Allegedly, all right? Could have been a lie. It says 600 people were killed, most by Balboa's man-eating dogs. Balboa himself didn't survive long afterward. After sighting the Pacific, he became entangled in a power struggle with other Europeans for the control of Central America, and in 1517 was hanged. So, that's white-on-white crime right there. All right, everyone's always talking about, these fucking black people. No, white-on-white crime right there. You're all, foaming at the mouth, and bloodthirsty to just get this land. All right, they covet fields and take them by violence. Okay, let's go and get that one. We'll just open up here. All right. So we'll read what we have here real quick as well. Where's my little notes? We'll read what we have here as well, because this is one of the ones I want to get. Proverbs 19:5. It says, a false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. And this is Esau, all right? They're the ones that are speaking these lies. They're not going to escape, all right? The Lord's going to get you back. The Lord's going to get you back. And we make sure every time we deal with a lesson dealing with Esau's lies to tell you that, Esau is not going to get his way out of this. Rest assured, he's not going to, weasel his way out of this one, right? So, Proverbs 19:5 again. Well, let's get it in the NASB. Let's see what it says. And why is my Bible in Basic English missing? Okay. Bible in Basic English, same scripture, Proverbs 19:5. A false witness will not go without punishment, and the breather out of deceit will not go free. There you go. Will not go out free. Will not will not. You're not making it out of this one, Esau. Proverbs 19:5 in the NASB. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who tells lies will not escape. Will not escape. There you go. So, but what I wanted to get here was, man, what was I gonna get? Man, I lost my train of thought. Dang. I had it, but then I read the scripture. Which one was I gonna get? Oh, they covet fields. That's right. Fuck yeah. I can barely see my keyboard here. Here it is. This is Micah 2:2. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. There you go. So, we'll start with 1. Micah 2:1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Of course, earth is given in the hand of the wicked. Verse 2, we just read it. We'll get it again. And they covet fields, which means they desperately crave these lands that are not theirs, right? And take them by violence. That speaks for itself. You know, when they can't get them, they'll kill people and then take them. That's what they did with the Gadites and Iskarites, all right? That's what they do everywhere, all right? Anywhere they want, all right? They even did it in Mexico. It says, and houses and take them away, so they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. So yeah, got that one. And look, man, you're not weaseling your way out of something. Okay, matter of fact, let's go and look that up. Okay, and here's this guy, Martin Waldesmuller. All right, he was a cartographer, and then American Vespucci used to say he's an explorer, Italian explorer. All right, so this guy was entranced by a lie, that they lied about, and you know the history of America was founded on, you know, a lie, right? That about this guy Americo Vespucci on this voyage that he never really took like he said he took, right? So, and he was a what was he? An Italian explorer. All right, now we know that there's 2 different types of Italians. All right, well, there's more than 2, but I'm talking about you have the Italians that are actually Jakes, all right, and then you have the Italians that are actually just Edomites, all right? But anyway, what I wanted to show you here was what does it mean? What does it mean to weasel your way out of something? Okay, weaseling your way out of something, it means to avoid a responsibility, a commitment, using clever, deceitful, or sneaky tactics. It implies you're trying to break an agreement or dodge a duty without facing the consequences or looking like the bad guy. And this is, you're not going to go without facing consequences, and you're not going to go without looking like the bad guy. You are the bad guy, Esau. All right, so you're not going to weasel your way out of this one. You're not weaseling your way out of it. All right, you rat bastard. All right, everything's going to be brought to light. Okay, let's go and jump and get another scripture real quick. All right, here, let's go and get it. Luke. All right, we get it right here. Luke 8. We'll just get Luke 8. All right, right here, verse 17. Luke 8:17. For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad, which means you're not going to hide anything without it ever coming to light. And those lies you told, those secrets you hid, those actions, those things that you tried to sweep under the rug, eventually that rug's going to be pulled out, and all your little dirty laundry is going to be right under that rug for everybody to see. NASB, same scripture, verse 17. It says, for nothing is hidden that shall not become evident, nor anything secret that shall not be known and come to light. Bible in Basic English. For nothing is put out of view which will not be made clear, and nothing is secret of which the knowledge will not come to light. Matter of fact, I want to go and get Luke 8 and 17 in the Good News translation. Actually, yeah. What is it? Help if I type the scripture in. Luke 8, 17. Come on now. Let's see what we got here. Ant Bible. For there's nothing hidden that will not become evident, nor anything secret that will not be known and come out into the open. That one's perfect. We'll just get that one. We don't even need the GNT. That one's perfectly fine. Okay? Perfectly fine as it is. So, continuing back on. And like I said, this one's probably going to be a little shorter than the other one. I think the other one was like an hour or so. This one we're at almost 30 minutes. We'll probably go maybe like 40 minutes. We'll see. We'll see when we get to a stopping point. We'll see what we can get. Like I said, there's a lot about this one, but we'll see. So, it says Balboa's explorations, in contrast, led nowhere. His chief legacy consists almost entirely in the sordid and vicious record he left when blazing his way across Central America to the Pacific. Among other things, he virtually wiped out a village of Israelites because the chief liked to dress up in women's clothing. Okay, we'll skip down to here because he was hanging. That's where we were right here. So Balboa at least did one thing for which he's famous, sighting the Pacific. Maglan, renowned for circumnavigating the globe, never did make it around the world. Partway through his trip, he got into a beach fight with some Filipino natives and was killed. The expedition, was finished under the leadership of Juan Sebastian del Cano. Henry Hudson is rightfully remembered for exploring the Hudson River, but he did not discover the river, the strait, or the bay that bear his name. Damn. So, it's Hudson River, but he didn't discover any of those things. Right? It's named, he didn't discover it. It says the river, discovered 85 years earlier by Giovanni del Verrazzano, did not even seem to interest Hudson. When he realized it was not part of the fabled Northwest Passage, he promptly turned around at Albany and abandoned his exploration. His chief association with the bay is that he apparently died there under unpleasant circumstances. Autocratic and suspicious, he was left there after his crew revolted against him. Good. The traditional story about Sir Walter Raleigh and tobacco is false, but not wholly false. Wholly false. Raleigh liked tobacco and was probably responsible for its popularity in England, but he did not introduce it into either England or Europe. Scholars say it was first introduced into England in 1586 by a couple of sea captains. Someone named Thevat reportedly brought it to France in 1556. Many people have assumed that Jean Nicot introduced tobacco into France. Unfortunately, history isn't logical. He didn't, right? So history's full of lies, all right, is what we're getting from this. It says there's some evidence that other countries might have gotten into it earlier. A couple of sailors supposedly carried some back from Cuba after one of Columbus's expeditions. As for the most famous anecdote told about Raleigh, that he was once doused with ale by a servant who was alarmed by the tobacco smoke, there's not one least bit of substance to it. They're lying about things that don't even need to be lied about. They're just things that don't even really mean anything. Put this black soot on the edge of this pen. Bear with me. I think it's just ink from writing. I think it's picking it up. Looks a little bit better. Slack, yeah. Not that it matters. But it says alarmed by the tobacco smoke. There's not least bit of substance to it. Historian Jerome Book said the story did not even appear until the 18th century, long after Raleigh had died. Of explorers who came later, two deserve mention. The rivals Robert Perry and Frederick Cook. Both men have been credited with discovering the North Pole, but the truth is neither man may have done so. There you go. Bear with me while I grab a drink here. All right. So, Perry's claim that he discovered the pole on April 6, 1909 is accepted by almost everybody, Almost everybody has included President Theodore Roosevelt, who, upon hearing the news, exclaimed, "Bully for Perry." The Congress of the United States, which in 1911 commended him for his Arctic explorations resulting in reaching the North Pole, and the National Geographic Society, which as recently as 1983 ran a harsh editorial blasting a made-for-TV movie that dared to dispute his claim. Most reference books credit Perry with the discovery. Few even hint at the matters in doubt. Yet, it is in question, as it has been from the very first. Originally, doubts surfaced because Perry announced his claim several days after Cook had made his announcement. As one writer notes, it seemed odd, indeed, that a goal which had eluded hundreds of men for centuries had suddenly been achieved by two men almost simultaneously. Later, at congressional hearings, Perry seemed vague about the details of the trip. And again, that's Esau shit, all right? It's the same thing with the whole moon race, all right? Well, we did it. And they just said they did it because no one actually was able to do it, all right? No one was actually able to do it. And if anybody was able to do it, it wouldn't be Esau, okay? It wouldn't be Esau. If you really look into it, they say China was the first one to actually get, it was China or Japan, I believe, were one of the first ones to actually get satellites up there, all right? But no, Esau, oh no, it was us, we did it. No, man. No, it's not you. Bullshit. Okay? It says, about details of the trip, in several places he contradicted his own writings on the subject. Someone's bullshit. Either that or he had like ADHD or something. Right? Which I get how that goes, but still, even with ADD and stuff, I can recall, I might be more forgetful and stuff, but I can recall mostly things that might come up in different pieces, but it's going to have truth in the matter. I'm not going to be, I went to the leftmost side of the mountain, then I'm not, I never went to the leftmost. No, you're bullshitting. All right, why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Anyway, it says, repudiating claims in his own book that several photographs showed him standing in the North Pole, shadows of the picture proved they couldn't have been taken when he said they had. Lies. It's the same thing. There's another picture that shows us how there's no stars, all right, in any of the NASA photographs of the moon landing. There's all these different things that show that what they're saying took place never even fucking took place in the first place. It said more disturbing was the pristine, and they talk zero gravity, but they do these tiny little bunny hops. What was that? It's fucking embarrassing. Stanley Kubrick, all right, came out and said the whole thing was a fucking sham. All right, I believe to some extent, right? It was all done on the Space Odyssey set, right? Mostly. So, you're gonna tell me we simultaneously barely had enough technology to get to the moon, but at the same time we could make a very convincing set, right? Psh, come on, man, use your brain. More disturbing was the pristine condition of Perry's diary, which suggested to some that he prepared it after the fact. It is a well-known fact on a long Arctic journey, said Congressman Ernest W. Roberts. Ablutions? A-B-L-U... 1 minute. Ablutions. Washing or cleansing one's body. Well, what are we going back? What does it say here? Ablutions, even the face and the hand are too luxurious. Ablutions, even of the face and the hand, are too luxurious for the travelers. So washing of the hands and face are usually too luxurious for people that were on that excursion. So, okay. So, again, it says, washings of even the face and hand are too luxurious for the travelers. Pemmican, Indian food made of mixed fat and berries, is a staple of food. Pemmican is fucking horrendous. I've never had it, but I've read about it. It's basically like, it's almost like a, it's basically one step above fucking hardtack, right? So, and that's shit like sailors ate and stuff. Horrible. It's a staple article of food. Its great value lies in its greasy quality. How was it possible for Perry to handle this greasy food without washing his hands? Write in his diary, and at the end of 2 months, have that same diary shown no finger marks or rough usage? Because it never happened. Most disturbing of all was Perry's claim to have traveled an average 26.7 nautical miles a day, a feat, says one historian, unequaled in the history of polar exploration. By comparison, Cook never claimed to advance more than 15 miles a day. Cook's claim that he discovered the North Pole on April 21st, 1908, which he announced September 1909, 5 days ahead of Perry, is unprovable. As he limply explained to critics, he left most of his records in a trunk in Greenland and couldn't substantiate his account. In a later magazine article, he conceded that neither he nor Perry could ever say with certainty that either had reached the pole because of deficiencies in the measuring instruments. Belief in the superiority of Perry's claim were based in part on the misleading and vicious campaign directed against Cook. Most serious of all were the charges was the allegation that Cook had previously lied about his claim to have scaled Mount McKinley in 1906. This charge was based on the sworn affidavit of his partner on the trip, Edward Barrell, who said he and Cook had fabricated the story. Barrell stuck to his affidavit, but later admitted he'd been paid several $1,000s for drawing it up. Again, everything's a lie. Everything's a lie. Claims on Perry's behalf were exaggerated by self-interested partisans posing as impartial observers. The most impartial observer of all seemed to be the National Geographic Society. The National Geographic's full of shit, right? Which early on appointed itself arbiter of the Perry-Cook dispute, unknown to the general public. However, the society had underwritten much of the cost of Perry's trip and had an interest in seeing it succeed. So, of course, if they don't want to look bad. So, it says when other institutions around the world seemed poised to award Cook the credit for discovering the North Pole, the society promptly used a circular imploring them to hold off until Perry's claims could be examined in detail by the society, and then awarded Perry the honor after conducting, according to Howard Abramson, merely a cursory examination of the evidence. Again, they didn't want to look like they were morons, right? Anyway, that's where we're going to leave off as far as the book goes. There. But, yeah, man, that's where we're going to leave off as far as the book goes. We got a couple scriptures to get, but yeah, man, these individuals are just, they're full of shit, right? They're completely full of shit. And bear with me while I move this mic so I can, well, not mic, but move this webcam, excuse me, back to its positioning so I can actually have better control over my desk. Let me move this microphone too. Oops. Slovakia. All right. Alrighty. And you know what? 1 minute. Let me. There we go. Alright. My keyboard. Okay. Boom, bam. Let me get some scriptures here, and then we'll close out. So we're almost approaching the 40-minute mark. This is just a little bit of a shorter one, I say. It's not too short, but still. Still longer than most shows run. Luke 8:17 we already got. Let me write that off. Let's get Ecclesiastes. Now, let's see if this reference... Okay, good. Making sure I'm on the actually right thing. So, Ecclesiastes, ECC 12 and 14. All right, so here we go. This is Ecclesiastes 12 and 14, showing you that you're going to be revealed, E. The Lord's going to pull the rug on your ass. It says, "For Yahweh shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So everything's going to come to light, whether it was good or whether it was bad. The things that we're saying now, you hate it, all right? Woe to them that call good evil and evil good, that put light for darkness and dark for light, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter, roughly paraphrasing. You're saying all these things about us. Well, guess what? The Lord's going to he's going to bring every work into judgment, all right? Every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. And not what we're doing a secret, but, all these different things that you're saying against us, everything, whether it's secret or not secret, is going to be revealed. The things that are not secret, Lord's already revealing those, and he's already revealing some of the secrets to an extent, not in a grand scale like it's going to be right before he comes back, because you're going to be known as the Edomites, all right? Not unanimously, undeniably, okay? And the Lord's gonna crack the seal on your ass, all right? And everyone's gonna know and see you for who you actually are, because you still got a lot of Jake out there. Oh, yeah, all right, No, the Lord's gonna bring all that into fruition. He's gonna bring it all out. All right, every single bit of your dirty laundry is going to be hanging out in the street for everyone to see. All right, and now no one's going to be able to say, well, they're a good person. No, you're not with all the information. First of all, anybody that still thinks you're a good person is not well versed in history. All right, it says, for Yahweh shall bring every work into judgment, and with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So same things with secret things. You might not necessarily tell people that you're praying or whatever, or you're doing however you're doing, or you may be very reserved and all that. Well, all those good things are going to be revealed as well. All right, and in a good way, okay, in a good way. And all the evil things that you try to hide, and this is not just for Esau. This goes for you, Jakes. You're trying to hide that. Oh, I'm not really in the truth of me. Or you have rabblings and issues with brothers, or issues with certain prophets, or issues with certain doctrines that the apostles teach, right? You don't like the whole the age thing, right? With biblical ages being 13, 14, or 12, 13, 14, right? Depending. Really right around 12, 13. You don't like that, so now you have oh, I don't like that, but well, that's so you're just basically disagreeing with history. Okay, you'll disagree with history because you've been lied to about, you've been Babylonianized. Say, oh, 12 and 13, that's not technically grown. Meanwhile, the Jewish people, they're having, bat mitzvahs at, those ages, and then it's written at that ages, and other people in the other countries say that's fine, and people in Asia say that's fine, and people in the Middle East say that's fine, and people in certain parts of Europe say that's fine, but in America it's wrong. It's the same thing with the arbitrary rule of drinking age, all right? Oh, you got to be 21, you got to be 21. Well, go and tell that to the people in England. All right, go and tell them you got to be 21. Tell that to the people in Canada. Go and tell that to the people in Mexico that you got to be 21. All right, that's an arbitrary American rule. All right, you say, oh, you're letting your kid drink on a 21. You're sick, right? Well, no. Why? Why is that sick to let an 18-year-old drink? They're an adult, right? But you'll let them go and fight a foreign war with a gun in their hand and go and get their brains blown out in the name of Donald Trump, right? But you'll let them do that because that's a good thing. But they better not, have a sip of liquor, right? See, all these things are American mind control. All right, that Esau has done to you. You don't realize in history it was done different. Okay, history was done different. Okay. Oh, that's in the past. That's in the past. You don't understand anything. All right, you probably don't even understand why menstruation first happens. Okay, you don't even know what that signifies. Okay. If someone was a kid, they wouldn't be menstruating. All right, kids don't menstruate. That's not something they do. I don't know if you know this or not. All right, the act of menstruating is when your body is able to become pregnant. All right, the Lord is not the author of confusion. He's not going to allow someone to become into the age. All right, and again, Esau's society has messed things up a little bit because the natural growth hormones, or not the human growth hormones and all this shit. And some kids are having children. Yes, not kids, because kid is sacrificial goat. That's why they use that term. But a child, all right, there's been incidences of children getting their menstruation cycles at 4 and 5 years old, which is completely ridiculous. That's not natural. That's Esau's chemicals that he's putting in the water, all right, that turn the freaking frogs gay. It's true, and that's even true, right? That's even true. Everybody laughed at Alex Jones. Oh, he's like, yeah, there's actually a chemical that's known to cause hermaphroditism, all right, in frogs, and that's the same water that you're drinking. Okay, and why do you think there's all these people that think they're women now? All right, men that think they're women and women that think they're men. Well, it's that shit that they're putting in the fucking tap water, man. All right, and fluoride and all that shit. I don't drink no fucking tap water. Fuck that, man. At the end of the day, I mean, if that's what you got, and you pray to the Lord, He's gonna help you, right? He's gonna help you and keep you safe. But I personally wouldn't drink it any more than I have to drink it, right? So that's Ecclesiastes 12 and 14, right? The Lord's gonna be the ultimate whistleblower. right? He would be the ultimate whistleblower because his motive is to get Esau the hell out of here, and they got to go into captivity. He doesn't have any ulterior motives. All right, these whistleblowers, when they work for Esau, there's always an ulterior motive. They're trying to get some money or something. Lord's not trying to get any money. He's just bringing to light who you are, who you actually are as an individual. Let's get Psalms 58:3. This is a famous one, right? We all know this one. This is Psalms 58:3. It says, the wicked, again, we just made that lesson yesterday. Who is the wicked? Who does the wicked refer to? All right, those for the new believers. Who is the wicked? Primarily, Esau, Edom. Yes, primarily the wicked. All right, they're called the border of wickedness. All right, the people against who the Lord have indignation against forever. All right. So, the wicked, Esau, Edom. Now, sometimes it can refer to the wicked of Israelites or just, wicked people in general. But when it says the wicked like that, 9 times out of 10, nine and a half times out of 10, it's dealing with Esau, Edom, right? Psalms 58:3, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And this shows you that they just can't help it, man. They can't help it. They're just natural-born liars. Natural-born. I actually made a lesson, I think, several years ago called Natural-Born Liars. All right, Esau, natural-born liars. Matter of fact, let's go see if I can find it. There it is, right, with Bill Gates, right? Natural-born liars, all right? Instead of natural-born killers, natural-born liars. They're a bunch of natural-born liars, man. And, again, that goes back into Psalms 58:3. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies, okay? They just, and that doesn't mean literally they're lying. It's, of course, before they can speak. I mean, but they are, actually. There was that video I did, a series of years ago where they were acting like they were hitting the baby's head, all right, and most of those babies were white babies that were lying like that. They'd like walk up to like a doorpost and they'd smack their hand on it, and then they'd look at the baby and go, oh, and the baby, trying to get sympathy, right? And that was mostly white babies that were doing that shit. So yes, they're lying before they can even formulate words. Right? Before they're speaking lies, they're physically lying. All right, there's always those white kids in the playgrounds that would lie and say, he hit me, or did, some fucking stupid lie. I remember when I was in elementary school, this was probably like around 3rd or 4th grade, I had this kid that didn't like me. I can't remember what his fucking name was. I think it was like Anthony or something. He's this white kid. And, I remember one time I was in, like, it wasn't like therapy, it was like counseling. I was with my counselor at the time. And, which was in a different, like, we had that school set up where the school was set up in, like, little trailers, all right? And they had the main school and then the other grades and stuff, 6th grade and counselor and, like, other little things were actually in little trailers outside of the school. And so I was at the counselor, and because I had issues with math and stuff and then, like, rough home life and shit. So, they made me go through there, and plus having like ADD and stuff like that, they wanted to, do all these different tests with my focus and see, what it is and what was going on and all this shit. Really, I just didn't want to fucking pay attention to the shit. That's all it was. I just didn't want to pay attention to the shit because it didn't interest me. But, I was with her at the time, and this kid decided to come up and formulate this lie that I passed him meanwhile, I'm out in the trailers, right? Because she was out in the trailers, the counselor. And then he had the main school. And this kid was in the main school at the time around, I don't know what time it was, right? I'll just say like, I don't know, 1, right? 1. And I got called in to the principal's office. I don't remember how exactly necessarily. Because I was out there and they didn't have, I don't know if they had a bell or maybe they like did it through the like a walkie-talkie system, I don't remember, but she had to bring me up there. The counselor had to bring me up to the principal's office, and she sat in there with me, and I think that when, may the Most High bless that woman. I don't know what she was, but I remember she was darker complected, and she had black hair and stuff, so maybe she was Latina or something, I don't know, but may the Most High bless her for that situation, because this kid, and I remember the principal's name. It was Mr. Allred. All right, he was a fucking prick. Had a bone to pick with me. All right, he was an Edomite, and it's funny because his name was Mr. Allred. My dad couldn't stand his ass either. But none of us could stand him. All right, he was a fucking prick. He was an old, grumpy fucking prick. And if if you didn't just sit down and shut up, all right, he would always have an issue with you. All right, you do anything, he had an issue with you. And another thing is he just started blaming me for shit, you know, because kids would have an issue with me, as a lot of us did, all right, as I know the Apostle Gabar talked about it. I think the Apostle Har as well talked about at school, you know, always, I had kids picking on you and talking shit and having an issue with you and all that. And, you know, Lord willing, that's a good sign that you're of the elect. With, of course, all the things that come along with this truth. Just because you got picked on doesn't mean you're a part of the elect. But you're in this truth, you're, you know, as a man, you're teaching, or a woman, you know, you're in sincerity, taking care of your husband, doing what you're supposed to be doing. And on top of that, you're picked at in school. It's a good sign, you know, they were doing that because they knew you weren't one of them. But, I remember going in there, and Mr. Allred, his fucking dickhead ass, was like, you know, the so-and-so said that you called him a fat ass. And this kid, mind you, he was a fat ass. But I never called him a fat ass, all right? Not once. First of all, because I knew if I would say something like that when I got home, if I got in trouble, my dad would beat the shit out of me. All right, well, not literally with fists, but I'd get a whooping from hell, man. A whooping from hell. All right, I'd have my TV taken away, my video games taken from me, and I'd have a sore ass for the fucking rest of the week. Because my dad was a hard-ass spanker, man. And I don't know, man. Trials and tribulations from years. He laid into you like a motherfucker, man. Bam! Every single one was almost, you almost couldn't even, it would hurt, but you almost couldn't feel it because your ass would go numb after. And shit, it was bad. It almost make you wish for the belt. It was bad, man. It was bad. All right, and I know some of you brothers and sisters out there, you had those harsh whoopings. Ain't one tiny little whooping. Nah, man. I got, that shit was, bam, right? You know, gives you that silent scream where you go, right? As you in your room walking around pissed off, right? But so no, I went now there was times I got in trouble, I did get my ass whooped, but I wasn't like purposely, I'm gonna get my ass whooped, I'm gonna call this kid a fat ass. Hell no. But the principal in there was like, oh, he said you called him a fat ass, you said he called him a fat ass. I said I never did any of that. I never did any of that at all. And he said, I know you did it. You know, talking about that because again, he tried to make it seem like I was like a problem child or something, which I really wasn't. You know, I mean, I became one after a while because I got sick of getting blamed. So I said, oh fuck it. You know, me and my friend, his name was Sterling, we started fucking up and breaking into the classrooms and shit. Because we kept on getting accused of shit we weren't doing. So not that we were right, not, you know, condoning what I was doing, but, you know, after a while, you know, false witness on you, and you're getting in trouble anyway. You're like, well, shit, if I'm going to get in trouble, I want to do something, you know, I want to break into this classroom and steal all their candy out the candy bowl or something, shit. You know, at least if I get in trouble, I want to know that, okay, yeah, I did do it, you know. But, no, they were always bearing false witness on us. They were doing shit that we weren't doing. And half the time when we were doing shit, we didn't get in trouble for the shit that we were doing, but got in trouble for some shit that we didn't do. But anyway, my school counselor was there with me, and she said, "No, when did that happen?" She said, "Well, he came in here at 1:30," and she said, "Well, that couldn't have been the case because he's been with me, you know, since 12 or whatever, right? It doesn't make sense." Anyway, do you think that kid got, now? If that would have been me, I got suspended so many times from that school, All right. Now, do you think? Now, if she went to stuck up for me, I would have been suspended. Now, do you think he didn't get in trouble at all? Not at all. All right, he didn't get suspended or not even a talking to. Okay, not even a talking to. All right, and that's because he was a fucking Edomite. All right, a fucking Edomite. All right, everybody knows those little kids like that. There's a little story of mine. But those little kids telling lies on you. It's always little fucking white kids, right? And I look like a so-called white individual, but you know, the skin color can be deceiving, right? Because really, I'm a Benjamite. All right, going back to, I believe, Benjamite or Judite. I believe I'm a Benjamite, but my lineage goes back to the Moors. Okay, so you know, going back to the you know, Celtic. All right, Celtic. You know, Scottish and Irish area, mostly Scottish Irish. But yeah, Moors were heavy in those areas, man. Right? And the original, matter of fact, just in the lesson I was watching today, the apostle was talking about how the Irish were called the ninjas, right, of Europe. Right, and they also used to say about us, no Irish, no blacks, and no dogs. Okay, and why was it? Because we were lumped in, because we were the same people at the end of the day. All right, Southern Kingdom of some variety. I'm sure there was all sorts of, you know. Anyway, Moor just means dark skin or black. Okay, so it could be, you know, it could be Judah, Levi, or Benjamin, but I believe I come from Benjamin because I have a lot more in common with Benjamites. And I've noticed Benjamites are really into music, and not that Judites aren't. There's just a certain thing with Benjamites with music. I don't know what it is. So, and then really, I didn't know what my wife was like, I think you're Benjamite. So you might be right about that, maybe. So I was like, yeah, I probably am at the end of the day. And like I said, I watch a lot of Apostle Gabar. He's a Benjamite, and there's a vibe. I don't know. There's a vibe there. There's a vibe. All the tribes have a different vibe, and I don't know. I think I most fit with either Judah or Benjamin. It's kind of hard to tell, but yeah, man. So it's just one of those things where you're gonna be hated regardless of your skin color. They can tell who you are. All right, for speckled birds. All right, those individuals out there, they can tell who you are at the end of the day, and they can see right through your skin color when you open your mouth. It might benefit you for a little bit, but it ain't gonna benefit you so much. As soon as you talk, there's been times people, hey, how are you doing? I said, hey, how are you doing? And I go, huh. They look at me like they just, saw Kunta Kinte, fucking walking out in the goddamn street. So that's the last scripture we're gonna get for this lesson. So that one off. This is Psalms 5 and verse 6. It says, "Thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing. The Lord will abhor the bloody and deceitful man." All right. So abhor means to hate. All right. This is Psalms 5 and 6. "Thou dost destroy those who speak falsehood. The Lord abhors the man of bloodshed and deceit." Who's the man of bloodshed and deceit primarily? Esau, Edom. It says, "You will send destruction on those whose words are false. The cruel man and the man of deceit are hated by the Lord." And who's primarily the cruel man and the man of deceit? Esau, Edom. Esau, Edom. Are there men of deceit of Israel? Yeah. And cruel? Yeah. But who does it the most of all? Who is the earth given in the hands of? The wicked. All right. Who's the one doing it on the highest scale? Esau, Edom. They're the wicked. Anything Jake does wicked, Esau does it wickeder. That song, anything you can do, I can do better. No, Esau, any wickedness Jake does, Esau does it to a 10 times, degree. Right? If Jake killed, 3 rival gang members, well, guess what? Esau killed 375, all right, and chopped them up and ate them in their meals and turned them into beef jerky. And if they were children, had sex with them during, they do it. They're profane. No one is lest there be any fornicator or profane person is Esau, for who one morsel of meat sold his birthright. You can't even get yourself in the mindset of being as wicked as Esau is. They're wicked to the core. Okay, they're wicked to the core, and no remorse. Okay, no remorse at all. So that's a lesson. That's been Legends, Lies, and the Cherished Myths of Babylon Part 2. I think when we come back into it, I think we're gonna skip a little bit because again, it's kind of trailing off now. Like I said, I don't know how much in this book there is that I can actually really even use. It's, again, all of it's useful because it's all about lies, but I'm not going to talk about, if there's, Heinz ketchup wasn't really even invented by a man named Heinz. I'm not going to really touch on that too much. There's going to be other things. There's a whole section on here on, like, sex myths and stuff. I'm probably not going to touch too much on that because, what's the point? There's some on war here that could be very interesting. I don't know. I'll have to look through it and see which ones I actually really want to grab. There's a section I'm looking through it now. There's a section on immigrants. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. So I'll have to just see. But like I said, I think I'm gonna skip some when we come back. Like I said, we're not gonna go the whole book, bit by bit. But yeah, man. So that's where we're gonna close out with it. So Lord willing, that was edifying. I guess I can leave it up here. The Lord willing was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Shem Yahweh Shai, Shem Dash. Shalom to you brothers and sisters out there, Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing, Shalom.